Erev Tov Rabotai, we are continuing with our Mishna Yomi, Masechet Maaser Sheni. We're up to Perek Hey, Mishna Zayin. Today's Mishnah should be Leilu Nishmat, Neria ben Svetlana Aranbai, and Eliyahu ben Burchai Israelov, Menuchatam Began Eden, Amen. The following Mishnah presents another machloket dispute between Beit Shammai and Beit Hillel regarding biur, the removal of the Maaserot. Mi shayulo perot bazman hazeh. If someone has produce of Maaser Sheni nowadays, when the Beit HaMikdash ba'avonotenu harabim is not standing, and Maaser Sheni may not be eaten even in Yerushalayim, as the Rambam tells us in Echot Maaser Sheni, chapter 2, halacha 1, v'higia shat biur, and the time for biur arrived. Beit Shammai Amrim, Beit Shammai say, tzich lechadna lana kesef. He must transfer sanctity from the produce to money, bring the money to Yerushalayim and destroy it there. The Mefarshim explain, Beit Shammai learned from a pasuk in the Torah that when there is no Beit HaMikdash, the owner performs the biur of Maaser Sheni by redeeming it with money and destroying the money in Yerushalayim, which the Mefarshim explain he may destroy the coins by grinding them up and tossing the shreds into a river, or he may throw the whole coin, all the coins, into the ocean. Mishnah continues, Beit Hillel Omrim, Beit Hillel say, Echad Shen Kesef ve'echad Shen Perot, whether the Maaser Sheni is money, or whether it is the original produce, it has no permissible use nowadays, because not only Maaser Sheni itself, but also food bought with money of Maaser Sheni may not be eaten anywhere. There is nothing gained then by redeeming the produce with money. Rather, one may leave the produce unredeemed and destroy the produce itself, because the Mefarshim explain, according to Beit Hillel, it is illogical to interpret the pasuk as meaning that one must redeem his Maaser Sheni with money, since nowadays the produce and the money are equally useless. Therefore, in the opinion of Beit Hillel, it is also possible to fulfill the mitzvah of biur with the produce itself, which can be done by hiding the produce away and letting it rot. And that is in Rabotai of Mishnah Zayin. Mishnah Chet continues to discuss that the halacha of biur not only applies to tithes that have already been separated from the crop, but also to produce that has not yet been tithed, like tevel. A farmer who has untithed produce must separate the tithes and give them to their proper recipients, or in the case of Maaser Sheni, eat in Yerushalayim before the biur deadline. The Mefarshim explain that Torah says regarding biur in Sefer Dvarim, chapter 26, pasuk 13, Bi'alta kodesh min habayit, I've removed the holy things from the house. The Chachamim say, by using the word holy, the pasuk is extending the law of biur to untithed produce tevel, which is holy on account of the sacred portions like terumah within it that have not yet been removed. Now the Mishnah elaborates upon this halacha. Amar Rabbi Yehuda said, Barishona ayu sholchin etzel balei batim shebamedinot. Originally, as the deadline for biur approached, the rabbis would send the following message to householders in the provinces, the parts of Eretz Yisrael outside of Yerushalayim: Maharu v'atkinu et perotechem ad shelo tagia shat biur. Hurry and process your produce before the time for biur arrives. And the Mefarshim explain, at first, the rabbis held that untithed produce is subject to biur even before it has been fully processed. Therefore, they send messengers warning owners to finish processing their produce so they could tithe it and then send the tithes to the proper recipients, or in the case of Maaser Sheni, eat in Yerushalayim before the biur deadline. The Mefarshim explain the completion of processing, like we learned, Gemar Melacha, is different for each species of produce. The processing for grain is complete when the farmer stacks the kernels of grain into a pile and smooths down the pile. They would tell them, hurry and do this. Mefarshim explain, produce may not be tithed before it has been fully processed. However, if someone would break this halacha and tithe unprocessed produce, the tithes would be valid, provided the produce is ripe enough to be edible, like we learned in Masechet Terumot, chapter 1, Mishnah 10. The Chachamim originally thought that since it's possible to remove tithes from unprocessed produce, it can be viewed as produce that contains sacred tithes. Therefore, it is holy produce which requires biur, like we said, based off the pasuk. Therefore, if a farmer has unprocessed produce, he would have to process it, because otherwise he wouldn't be allowed to tithe it, then remove the tithes, and then deliver the tithes to the proper recipients. To make sure that all this got done before the deadline for biur, the rabbi sent out messengers to warn the farmers that the deadline was approaching. Ad sheba Rabbi Akiva, the Mishnah says this practice of sending messengers continued until Rabbi Akiva came. V'limed shekol hapirot shelo ba'u le'onat ha'maasrot piturim min habiur, until Rabbi Akiva came and taught that any produce that has not reached the tithing stage, meaning its processing is not complete, is exempt from biur. And the Mefarshim explain, when we say onat ha'maasrot, the tithing stage, it does not carry its usual meaning the point of growth of which produce became edible. Rather, it refers to the completion of the produce. When we say shelo ba'u le'onat ha'maasrot, what we mean here is that it wasn't completely processed. Rabbi Akiva says it's exempt from biur, meaning the law of biur does not apply to unprocessed produce, and therefore someone who has unprocessed produce does not have to do anything with it before the biur deadline. And the Mefarshim explained that Rabbi Akiva ruled, since it is forbidden to tithe unprocessed produce, such produce cannot be called holy. It attains the status of holy produce only after its processing has been completed and its tithing is permitted. And that is the Rabotai of today's Mishna Yomi. The Rab does tell us, halakha follows Rabbi Akiva, that unprocessed produce is exempt from biur. You don't have to tithe, you don't have to do anything before the biur deadline. And again, that is in Rabotai of today's Mishna Yomi. Baruch Adonai Le'olam, Amen v'Amen.